I want to talk about JSN. That's
Yeah.
all. I just want to talk about a really, really good draft instead of this stupid one with no quarterbacks.
Welcome to the final episode covering the 2022 NFL Draft from Boomer Bust Draft Show. Max Chadwick alongside Nick Merriam and Donny Clemons. So we did the AFC last time. We're doing the NFC this time, covering every team in the NFC's draft, all 16 of them, going through pick by pick, what we liked about the draft, what we didn't like about the draft. We're trying to make this a little bit quicker. We appreciate you guys for tuning in last time. We went way longer than we expected last time. So this one, we're trying to go a little bit quicker. But please like and subscribe to the channel. Turn on notifications. Be sure to follow our Twitter, Instagram, TikTok at Boomer Bust Draft. We're on YouTube and anywhere you get your podcasts, and check out the merch store. And this episode is brought to you by WinView, which is the best thing to happen to sports since fantasy. WinView is a new way to bet on sports because now you can bet live during games on the most minute stuff, which is the coolest thing. Like, will the Cowboys score a touchdown on this drive? Will Kyrie Irving hit this three-pointer? No longer, because the Nets are out of the playoffs now. Or will this at-bat be a strikeout? Make bets like these and more on the WinView app. You can play for free for fun or enter cash prize contests against other users. All you have to do to enter is answer prompts before and during the game. All you got to do to sign up is click on the link that is in our description below and become a part of the new way to bet on sports today with WinView. All right, let's start off the NFC grades now, and Nick starts off with the Chicago Bears, and I'll just read through the picks real quick because they had an interesting draft for sure. They had Kyler Gordon in the second round, Jaquan Brisker second round, Velus Jones Jr. third round, Braxton Jones fifth round, Dominique Robinson fifth round, Zachary Thomas sixth round, Treston Ebner sixth round, Doug Kramer sixth round, Jatire Carter seventh round, Elijah Hicks seventh round, and Trenton Gill seventh round. So what do you think with the Bears?
Yeah, so I give them like a C+. I think as a group for them, we have them as a also C+, so kind of aligned there. You know, again, one of these drafts that I think they could have done better. I know they didn't have a first-round pick. Attacking initially secondary is going to be the big discussion here, and going Kyler Gordon, Jaquan Brisker. I like both those players. I think they, have a defensive coordinator, so they probably focused on that. But I think generally when you have a defensive coach and you have a young quarterback, you should draft the talented offensive players and develop the defensive players. So that's the issue I have with this draft. I like Braxton Jones' developmental piece. I even liked Velus Jones Jr. more than most people, but I did not have him as a top 100 player. Like, I think that's ridiculous that they took him in the third round. He's kind of like, I think at his best, like a Cordero Patterson type, and not really like a number one receiver. So that's going to be the main issue for me, is that they really just did not attack offensive positions that are going to help them in the long run. Yeah, I mean, outside of that, like, and a lot of the late round picks were I kind of like Jatire Carter, but other than that, like, there was a lot of kind of meh. Dominique Robinson, I think, has some developmental upside, but it was just they didn't really impact their roster a whole lot outside of those first two picks.
The Bears hate Justin Fields. That's my biggest takeaway. They really don't like him, which, I mean, Matt Nagy hated him last year, and now I'm convinced that Ryan Flores. Now, Washington will take him in a heartbeat. So they didn't draft the wide receivers in the third round, and the one they drafted wasn't very good. They improved their secondary, but as a friend of mine once told me, secondary comes second. No pun intended. You got to improve that offensive line, and you improved it in the late rounds. Unfortunately, that's not going to save the world, and you drafted one weapon, and he wasn't really good anyway. So, yeah, the Bears are going to get a top 3 pick, and they're going to be happy because JSN will be amazing in the NFL.
Hell, man, they might take a quarterback because, like you guys mentioned, like my major takeaway from this Bears draft was Justin Fields is screwed. Like, they're not building around Justin Fields, which is awful. And I love Justin Fields last year. He was my number 2 overall prospect. They got him at number 11, but that regime that took him is not there anymore. The GM is gone. They have a new GM in Ryan Poles. They have a new head coach in Matt Eberflus. They might not be convinced that Justin Fields is the guy, and they might say, hey, instead of trying to build around Justin Fields like the Jets are building around Zach Wilson because they still have that same regime there, they're not doing that. And they might say, hey, you know what? We're going to see what happens next year. If he's not the guy, and we get a top pick, we can get a Bryce Young or replace him with another Ohio State quarterback and C.J. Stroud or someone else. I am unconvinced that the Bears. Yeah. I really, it's tough. It's tough to see what the Bears are doing to Justin Fields because I love him. I thought he showed a lot of promise last year, more than any rookie quarterback besides Mac Jones, in my opinion. I know that's a hot take, but if you really watch the tape, I think he showed a lot of promise last year, and it's difficult to see the Bears just don't care. They don't care about that, and they're not building around him. All right, moving on to PJ's Detroit Lions, who had a really slam dunk draft, in our opinion. We ended up giving them an A- for the Lions. They got Aiden Hutchinson at number 2 overall, then Jameson Williams to trade up for him, Josh Pascal, Kirby Joseph, James Mitchell, Malcolm Rodriguez, James Houston the 4th, and Chase Lucas. Donnie, what did you think about this draft?
So Hutchinson at 2 is an A+ pick. He should have been the first overall pick, but Trayvon Walker, so that guy does exist. Jameson Williams traded up to get him in the first round. You jumped. Who'd they jump? They jumped They jumped the Eagles. No. Who did they jump? They jumped the Texans. That's right.
And Eagles.
Yeah, they jumped that's actually a good idea because there were late reports that the Texans did want to go Jameson Williams possibly, and they jumped him to get him, which is really, really smart. And also they jumped the Eagles, which is also another team that was reportedly like, oh, we're all in on Jameson Williams, and then they wanted to get out of him and take him. So they got another weapon to hopefully help Jared Goff. They also drafted Malcolm Rodriguez in the 6th round, which made me really happy because he was like one of my guys. Like I know he's not like great, but I don't know. I'm just happy he got. Yeah, I'm just kind of happy he got drafted. Josh Pascal in the 2nd round, I really didn't understand. I didn't really understand that. Like, why are you drafting more defensive linemen? Like, you went all in on D tackles last year, and you have the Okoro brothers, and you have Charles Harris, and now you drafted Aiden Hutchinson. Like, what's the point in drafting Josh Pascal? I don't understand that. But and then possibly my favorite pick of the whole draft, Kirby Joseph at 97. I thought that was a slam dunk A+ pick. They need safety, and they got, in my opinion, a guy who can come in day one and start. Like my really only huge, massive question with him is why did he break out so late? So maybe it could be a fluke, and he could go in the NFL and stink. But I don't know. I like him a lot. I think he's a guy who plugs in day one. He's pretty good.
I think they had nice late value with Malcolm Rodriguez, who I also liked, as well as Chase Lucas, who went a little bit later than I would have taken him. I thought he has some developmental upside. As well as the guy James Mitchell, who was good for Virginia Tech 2 years ago, got hurt this year, is a really good athlete, could develop into something, I think, for them as a tight end. I know they have Hawkinson, but, you could always use more pass-catching weapons, which he is. The two things that make this draft not like an A to me is that although I love Jameson Williams, and the trade up wasn't an egregious trade up, it's still they traded up and they sent picks away to do it. Maybe, good price for moving up 20 spots in both rounds. But I don't know. I don't think that they were necessarily at had the ability to just be that aggressive for one player. But they did it, and I didn't give that pick like a horrible grade, but I do think they sent away a player effectively, 3 picks for 2 picks in that trade. And then the Pascal pick, like I like Josh Pascal. I didn't think it was a major reach, but just because, like what Donnie said, it's their 5th edge rusher now. I don't know that all those guys are going to make the team. And I know they just re-upped Charles Harris, and then why did you pay him? Like as another guy who played well last year, you're paying Okoro like a good amount of money. They drafted another Okoro. I know that guy was previous regime, but I don't know. Like they have a lot of edge rushers in there, and for a roster that needs talent other places, I just thought they could have spread it around a little bit more.
Yeah, especially like a 2nd round pick. Like they took James Houston the 4th from Jackson State, an edge rusher in the 6th round. Like that's like, all right, whatever. But like 2nd round, like your first 2 of your first 3 picks are edge rushers. And like I really came into this draft, saying they had to take Aiden Hutchinson if he's there because of how good he is.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't have a needed edge defender. Like it wasn't like that was a need on the team. It was just you had to take him. And for them to take another edge defender was head scratching.
It's like they were above average but not excellent, and Hutchinson can make them excellent.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I don't know. It was to me like it was taking another offensive lineman in the 2nd round. It's like why would you do that? Like we have so many other needs. But I don't know. I don't love the Josh Pascal pick. I thought it was a little bit of a reach too. In addition to just taking a position that you just don't need. My major takeaway is this team might be a quarterback away, and we'll see what happens next year. But they can be in the market for. It's gonna be weird. Like veteran quarterbacks might actually want to go to Detroit, which is kind of insane to say when you think about it. But if they tank, if Jared Goff stinks again and they get the 1st or 2nd pick, like Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, whoever you put in that offense, they could really be, once Aaron Rodgers is retired, they could be that team in the NFC North, which is insane to think about for the Detroit Lions. So I really like this draft for the Lions.
It's secondary and needs a little work.
Yeah, the secondary needs some work. We'll see what if Jeff Okudah can ever make promises on his number 3 pick. But I ended up giving the Lions an A for this draft because you have your hometown guy, Aiden Hutchinson, the best player of the draft, fall to you. I don't love the trade up for Jameson Williams like you guys, but he's also like I like the pick there, and otherwise, like I thought they had some really nice picks at the back end of the day. But you get a superstar in Aiden Hutchinson, in my opinion, and a potential superstar in Jameson Williams. Like I really think this team is a quarterback away from being legitimate contenders in that NFC. So let's move on to the next team. That is the Green Bay Packers, who ended up taking 2 defensive players in the first round, Quay Walker from Georgia and Devontae Wyatt from Georgia. Second round, they take Christian Watson, Sean Ryan in the third round, Romeo Doubs in the fourth, Zach Tom in the fourth, Kingsley Enagbare in the sixth, Tariq Carpenter in the seventh round, Jonathan Ford in the seventh round, Rasheed Walker in the seventh round, and Samori Toure in the seventh round. So I'll take this one. I kind of like the Packers draft. I ended up giving them a B for this draft, and really the Quay Walker pick at 22, it wasn't as egregious as the Cole Strange, or it wasn't as surprising, I would say, as the Cole Strange pick. I actually had Quay Walker and Cole Strange kind of similar on my board, right around the 100 range. So it wasn't a surprise because I had a feeling, because of the betting markets, that Quay Walker would be a first-round pick. LB1 is way too high for me. I know Nakobe Dean has injury history, but my God, you could have got Devin Lloyd. I like the Devontae Wyatt pick a lot. Christian Watson, I think, was overdrafted, but I understand that trading up for Christian Watson, I didn't love doing either. Like, that was like, they traded away a few picks for him. I was like, you could have gotten another receiver like Sky Moore or George Pickens or someone like that. I do like the Romeo Doubs pick a lot. What saves this draft for me is the 4th and 6th round, because you get Romeo Doubs, like I mentioned. Then you get Zach Tom in the 4th round, which I thought was a second-round talent. They need offensive linemen. They need versatile offensive linemen. And Zach Tom can play tackle, guard, or center and do it at a very high level, in my opinion. I would have taken that guy in the 2nd round. And then Kingsley Enagbare in the 6th round was an unbelievable pick for the Packers. I had this guy as a day 2 talent, and for them to get him at 179 was absolutely insane. So I really, really like what the Packers did. I get Kingsley Enagbare at number 72 overall, so early 3rd round pick, and the guy in the 6th round. So really like what the Packers did, getting Romeo Doubs, Zach Tom, Kingsley Enagbare, Devontae Wyatt, and Christian Watson's got a high ceiling. I like Sean Ryan too. So I like the Packers draft enough to give it a B.
They drafted the best receiver in the class. Like, what do you want me to say? Christian Watson is going to a dream scenario with Aaron Rodgers, and I can't wait for it. I've been saying for the longest time his best fit is with the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. I'd imagine this is probably a very close second. He's going to play with the back-to-back MVP and Matt LaFleur, and I wouldn't be shocked by the end of the year if he hits over 1,000 yards, because they have no weapons, and Christian Watson is going to be spectacular. So, sorry, guys, I get my wish. Christian Watson's going to be amazing. And then the Quay Walker pick was just awful. That was probably one of the worst picks of the whole draft. But outside of the Quay Walker pick, I thought this was actually a pretty good draft. And then they got the best receiver in the draft at pick 34. So I would say this is probably like an A- or maybe an A.
Yeah, I mean, the Walker pick I'm mostly upset about. I know it was a reach, but just like they don't value positions correctly, and I just like think going linebacker here was just kind of ridiculous. But beyond that, really, I thought they did then fill the roster where they needed to fill it correctly. They did take 2 receivers in the top 100, for second and fourth round, which is nice. And trade up for Watson was a little weird, but and I mentioned it on the show, but I think Watson's the type of guy that like probably week 1 has like 2 catches for 8 yards, but then also Matt LaFleur gives him the ball and end around and he goes 70 to the house. Like he's going to be that type of player early on, but there's something there. Sean Ryan, Zach Tom, even Rasheed Walker, I thought was like a good value at that point in the draft to like try and reinforce an O-line that I think underratedly needed it. And then, Enagbare, I loved. By the way, last pick of the 5th round, Max. You gotta give him that credit there.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm learning PFF got it wrong on the website then. It says 6th round for him. But yeah, Kingsley Enagbare, I love that pick. All right, let's move on to the Minnesota Vikings, last team in the NFC North. We ended up giving them a C+ for this draft. They got Lewis Seen at the last pick of the 1st round, then Andrew Booth Jr., then Ed Ingram, then Brian Asamoah, then a Caleb Evans, Isezi Atamueo in the 5th round, Ty Chandler in the 5th round, Vidarian Lowe in the 6th round, Jalen Naylor in the 6th round, and Nick Muse in the 7th round. Nick Muse, by the way, has been commenting on our TikToks a lot lately. So shout out Nick Muse going to the Minnesota Vikings.
Shout out Nick Muse.
Shout out. Nick, what do you think about the Vikings draft?
Didn't dislike the process. Trading back was good. Get extra picks, like the Lewis Seen pick at 1. Harrison Smith's older, needed to replace Anthony Harris. Trading up then for Andrew Booth was a little strange. I know they wanted to go for corner. I agreed with that, but I don't know. I just thought there were other corners. Maybe take Martin Emerson at the pick they traded up from would have been better than sending picks to get a guy who had some injury concerns. And then Ed Ingram and Brian Asamoah, this is really what kind of hurt this draft's grade for me, is that Ingram, I think, fills a spot, but it was early. And then Asamoah, I just we've said on the show, I don't see it with him. I don't think he's ready to play. I think this is like the Chaz Surratt pick last year for them, who didn't really do anything. I think he's going to be a special teamer. I don't know that he plays much. Caleb Evans was way too early for me. There's a couple of picks here that are interesting later on. I like Ty Chandler. I think Jalen Naylor has some speed ability, but it was just kind of outside of those first two picks, I don't really know how much they impacted their roster.
Yeah.
Yeah, this draft was, the first two picks were good. Like we said, Lewis Sean's a good pick. Andrew Booth falling to them was another great pick. And then the rest of the draft just kind of stunk. Like, I'm not a fan of Ingram. I had him as a 6th-round pick, and you took him in the late 2nd round, which, oh, geez, that was not pretty. To be honest, outside of the first two picks, this whole draft was kind of crap. Like, it was all kind of crap. Listen, I'm a Ty Chandler guy. I really like Ty Chandler. I didn't even have him in my top 200, and he took him at 165, which is kind of pushing it. And once again, shout out Nick Muse for getting drafted. I unfortunately did not watch you, but congratulations on getting drafted. But yeah, the draft overall was just not great.
I agree. Nick Muse is the only A+ pick, I think, of this entire draft for the Minnesota Vikings. Lewis Sean I liked at 32. Andrew Booth Jr. For a lot of people, shocking, fell out of the first round, but there are reported back issues that are serious, and people are concerned about that. So, which is why he fell to 42. But if he's okay, I think at 42 that could be a really good pick for Booth. I agree with you guys though. Ed Ingram, Brian Asamoah, like they reached there, and I didn't love that draft that much. I ended up giving the Minnesota Vikings a B- for the draft because I liked the first two picks, but after that it got weird and I didn't like it too much. Besides the Nick Muse pick at 227, my number one overall player. So let's go to the NFC South now and start off with the Atlanta Falcons, who got Drake London at 8th overall, then Arnold Ebiketie at 38th overall. Then in the 2nd round, again, they get Troy Anderson. 3rd round, they get Desmond Ridder. 3rd round, they get D'Angelo Malone. 5th round, Tyler Algier. 6th round, Justin Schaefer. And 6th round, John Fitzpatrick. Donnie, what did you think about this draft?
So whenever the draft ended and I went back and I looked at all the teams' picks, the Falcons were the team that I was like, okay, I'm pretty sure they had a bad draft. I don't know what I was thinking because they crushed it, honestly.
Yeah.
They got Drake London with the 8th overall pick. I do question why they took him because they already have a jump ball contested catcher in Kyle Pitts. And a lot of people are saying that Drake London's like a big slot receiver, but that's kind of what Kyle Pitts is. So I don't really know what they're going to do with Drake London. I imagine they're going to put him in the outside and just have him win with contested catches like Mike Evans, but I don't really get it. But still a great pick. He's still a really good player. He's a top 15 player in the class. Arnold Ebiketie, I'm not the biggest Arnold Ebiketie fan. I had a 3rd round grade on him, but I knew he was going to get drafted this high, and they need edge rushers, so I'm cool with it. Troy Anderson with 58, they're taking a swing for the fence, and I feel like you kind of have to when your team is this bad. Troy Anderson has the highest ceiling of any linebacker in the draft, so it makes sense. Desmond Ridder, the 2nd quarterback to go off the board. No, not even in the 2nd round. In the 3rd round at pick 74. What? NFL, what are you doing? Just because this quarterback class isn't as bad as the NFL draft made it out to be.
Yeah, I agree.
It really, really wasn't. I don't get that. D'Angelo Malone at 82. I like him, not that high, but they didn't reach entirely. And once again, they need pass rushers, so go on ahead and get your guy. Tyler Algier, I'll let Nick explain that because that's his guy. And then the rest of the picks were whatever. Justin Schaefer, whatever, and then John Fitzpatrick. Whatever. He was the worst Georgia tight end out of the two over there. So, yeah, this draft was overall pretty good. I'd give it an A-.
Yeah, I like this draft. We gave it did we give it A- as a team? I believe we did. Yep. So that was pretty good. Rated pretty well in my thing. Drake London pick was good. I thought the receiver was. I know some people didn't like it, going that position, but they just needed at every position. I loved Ebiketie coming out. I would have taken him higher than 38. Trading up, I don't care. I just like that they did emphasize kind of both sides of the ball in this draft. They didn't focus on one side. Ridder was a huge steal. I think we're going to talk about all these quarterbacks, just great. And, I think Ridder is kind of a Mariota Tannehill combo, which is perfect for Arthur Smith.
Yeah.
And then Tyler Algier. Yeah, I love this guy. My comp for him was Blastoise. He is an explosive bowling ball. I know they tried with Mike Davis last year, didn't really work out, but I think if Arthur Smith's trying to find his like Derrick Henry power back with some like long speed for his size, here you go. Like this is a guy who could definitely fit in this offense and just be a wrecking ball for the Falcons. I'm very excited for Tyler Algier in this offense.
Yeah, I really like this draft. I ended up giving them an A for this draft. Drake, I do. Don, it's a really good point you brought up because I actually didn't even think about that. Was the Drake London Kyle Pitts fit together is gonna be interesting because they both are kind of like these bigger slot receivers. So I still think it'll work. You put Drake London as your X. Ebiketie, I like that pick too. Little high for me, but not too high. I think I was actually right around the range where I take him. Troy Anderson, loved that pick at 58. Like that again, he's a 100 percentile athlete. Was a phenomenal player at Montana State. And then Desmond Ridder, you guys mentioned it. The NFL is way too low in this quarterback class. Like they really over.
It's a joke.
They try to like make a point in how much they hated the quarterback class. It was like, all right, you're kind of overdoing it a little bit, where it's like, why is the second quarterback off the board the 74th overall pick? I promise you, it's not that bad. We're gonna get into a team very soon where Nick and I are probably gonna both wax poetic about how stupid another guy fell, but. Otherwise, I like this draft a lot, and those first 4 picks were home runs, in my opinion. I think the Falcons did a really good job. It's interesting because now you have Marcus Mariota, and then you have Desmond Ridder, who I think is a Mariota clone. So it's like, all right, you got 2 Marcus Mariotas in there, which I don't know. I don't hate that. I don't know if I like Ridder as a number 2 quarterback off the board, but at that rate, like, who cares? It's a 74th overall pick. All right, let's go to the Carolina Panthers now, who we ended up giving an A- for their draft. They got Ikem Ekwonu with the 6th overall pick. Then they got Matt Corral in the 3rd round. Then they got Brandon Smith in the 4th round, Amari Barno in the 6th round, Cade Mays in the 6th round, and Kalen Barnes in the 7th round. Nick, what'd you look at this?
So this draft, although I said the Ravens draft is my favorite draft, in my grading scale, actually graded out as the highest draft in this class.
Wow.
I really liked it. And I think that the thing is, coming away from this, it won't be the most impactful draft because they didn't have a whole lot of picks. Their team's not very good. And it's a little bit of a crapshoot for the Panthers right now. Like it would be difficult for them to come out of this as, a playoff team. But in terms of what they had going in, this was like the perfect scenario. They didn't force QB at 6. They were able to trade up a little bit and get like a guy that we had pretty highly ranked in the 3rd round and towards the end of the 3rd round as a developmental quarterback, and a guy I think ends up playing probably at some point this year just because I'm not very faithful in Sam Darnold and Matt Corral. And then, the next 4 picks all had some value to me. Brandon Smith, I had as like a high third round pick. They got him late in the 4th. Amari Barno in the 6th, I think, as an athletic edge player was like a good. I mean, they valued like athletic traits later on, which was good. Cade Mays had some production in college. I thought it was good to get him late 6th. And Kalen Barnes in the 7th is just a speedy corner. I know he might not be like a starter for them this year, but there's a developmental piece. The guy who ran in the 4.2s. You love to see that at the 242nd pick in the draft, whereas the Patriots are doing that at receiver at pick 50, right? Like that is very much worth it. And I think they also spread around the positions. They targeted where they needed spots, offensive line, quarterback, some defense. It did not have a bad pick. That was like the theme here is there was not a bad pick for the Panthers. And I think they come out of it looking like they managed the situation very well. I don't know that they're going to really improve as a team, but in terms of like, wow, we're in a really tough situation. I don't know how we're going to get out of it. Couldn't have gone any better for Carolina.
I think they'll improve because they drafted, in my opinion, QB2 in the draft at 94 overall. I don't understand how Matt Corral fell that far, and I agree with you, Nick. I think he is going to play a little bit this year because, quite frankly, Sam Darnold is bad. Ikem Ekwonu, you took my OT1 at 6 overall. Now we're going to talk about it there. Good pick. Brandon Smith at 120 for me is a slam dunk. This guy's as a top 50 player in the class. He's a freak athlete, and I think his coverage is very, very good. And those are the 2 things that you can't teach athleticism, and it's very difficult to teach coverage. That's why I'm all in on Brandon Smith. And then Amari Barno in the 6th round. I mean, this is a guy who ran like a 4.36 at the combine as an edge rusher or a linebacker or whatever they really want to play him at. So, yeah, good job, Panthers. You improve your team a little bit. You're still going to be bad next year, but at least you got Matt Corral.
Yeah, I love this Panthers draft. I gave him an A- for this draft. The board really, in the 1st round especially, fell perfectly for them because first 5 picks were defensive players, which is the first time since 1991 that's happened. Like, that is insane. And they got Ikem Ekwonu, who I think was the consensus OT1 for NFL teams. It wasn't my OT1, but Ikem Ekwonu 6th overall. Like, there you go. That's probably exactly what the Panthers wanted, because they weren't going to take another corner. They weren't going to take an edge rusher because they have Brian Burns and they have all those corners in that cornerback room right now. So they really were targeting offensive tackle, and the fact that all three of them were on the board at number 6 overall was just a perfect scenario for them. And then in the third round, it fell again perfectly to them because there was no run on quarterbacks where I really thought there would be in the first and second round, and it just didn't happen. So you go into this Panthers draft saying, man, they're kind of screwed. I believe it was the 6th pick, and then the next pick was like 105 or something like that. And you're like, man, yeah, they can get a tackle at 6, but then what do you do for quarterback? Well, nobody took a quarterback. So now you get Matt Corral, who I thought should have been a second or first round pick at 94 overall. Like, there you go. Matt Corral going to Carolina. I think he could develop into a developmental quarterback for them. I really like that pick. And then Brandon Smith you get in the 4th round too. A guy from Penn State who I was lower on because I'm a huge Penn State fan and I'd watch every game, and I thought very developmental guy. But at 120, look, that is where I'd pick, or probably even lower than I'd take him. So I love that pick for Brandon Smith. The 4th round developmental guy is one of the most athletic linebackers to ever come out. Like that, I love that. And Amari Barno, I like that pick a lot. Cade Mays and Caleb Barnes, 2 good picks. So I give this draft an A-. I mean, this was a really solid draft for the Panthers. I went into this draft saying, the Panthers are kind of in no man's land where I don't think they can come out of it with having a good draft. Well, the NFL shocked us all, and the 2022 NFL draft was a very surprising one, and ended up the Panthers had a really good draft, which I honestly did not think was possible. So the Saints are next up here in our list, and the Saints got Chris Olave in the 1st round. Then they took Trevor Penning in the 1st round. Then they took Alontae Taylor in the 2nd round, and DeMarco Jackson in the 5th round, and Jordan Jackson in the 6th round. I'll take this one real quick. I ended up giving this draft a C for the Saints. I like the Olave pick. I don't think I would take him higher than some other receivers, namely Treylon Burks, but I think it's an okay pick, or Jameson Williams too. Trevor Penning at 19, tough. It's like I wouldn't take him that high. I didn't think he should have been that high of a pick. I think I had him as like an early 2nd round pick, but I understand, you're trying to chase the upside there. Yeah, I had him 33 overall. So I understand chasing the upside there, and you need offensive tackle. 2nd round, Alontae Taylor, I thought was way overdrafted. This is one of those picks. This is one of those teams and one of those picks where I was like, take a quarterback. This is where you should take a quarterback, and take Sam Howell or Malik Willis is on the board at 49 overall here too. So taking Alontae Taylor when this team could use a quarterback. I know they signed Andy Dalton, they have Jameis Winston, but those are not your answer. And chase the upside of Malik Willis. And then DeMarco Jackson in the 5th round is a guy I really liked, and Jordan Jackson in the 6th round is fine, but I don't know. I thought it was a little bit of a reach for both Olave and Trevor Penning, and definitely a reach for Alontae Taylor. And I like DeMarco Jackson, and Jordan Jackson's fine. What brings it down even more for me is that they just didn't take a quarterback, and they had a golden opportunity to take a quarterback at 49th overall, which ends up giving them a C for me.
At a C+. Trading up, dude. What are we doing? I mean, they sent 5 premium picks to make sure they got Chris Olave, which was, I know that's the Saints' MO, but I can't get on board with it. And I love Chris Olave, even with a slight reach, in my opinion. It's just ridiculous to do that, in my opinion, because the 5 players you get from whatever, the 1st, the 2 seconds, and the 3rd you sent, maybe, I don't know if they sent like a 5th as well, or they sent a 4th to Washington. Like that's going to make your team better than Chris Olave is, unless you think Chris Olave is going to be Devontae Adams and you don't trust your ability to draft, in which case I would say to you, like, that is a ridiculous projection to have both of those things in your mind. Like, you're going to hit on one of those 5 picks, even if you suck at drafting. Like, it's just the way it is. It's the way percentages work. Trevor Penning, also a slight reach, whatever. Alontae Taylor was ridiculous. The best value pick here is DeMarco Jackson. He's a bit undersized, and he's more of a run defender at linebacker. So, like, I don't even, Alontae Taylor was the first quarterback off the board in this draft because he played quarterback at a high school, and they converted him to a corner. So I just like to throw that out there. Like,
yeah, number 2 after my guy Kenny Pickett, but yeah.
Oh, right. Okay, so he's the first quarterback taken after Pickett, right? That's what
Yeah, first quarterback taken after day 1, which is pretty crazy. I hate trading up for that. Yeah, I hate trading up for Chris Olave. I've always been a fan of, if you're going to trade up for upside, and I don't think there's a huge amount of upside with Chris Olave. Like, he has a high floor, like, he'll be good. Like, you should be trading up for someone who could be great, which I don't really understand why you didn't, but you took Chris Olave over Jameson Williams, which I really, really don't like. Trevor Penning at 19. I mean, I had him at like 27 on my board, but I don't know. It just something about it just doesn't feel right to me. Whenever the pick happened, it just kind of hit me like I feel like this is going to be a mistake, and it might be. His Senior Bowl wasn't very good. Alontae Taylor was one of the worst picks of the whole draft. Like I don't know what they were even thinking. There were so many better options on the board. DeMarco Jackson, once again, just like those two, I really like that pick a lot, and then Jordan Jackson, like whatever. So I don't know. This draft wasn't great, and I agree with Max in the fact that if they would have gotten a quarterback, I would have liked it a lot more. So. I don't know, C-, somewhere around there.
Yeah, I honestly hate trading up for non-quarterbacks because it never really works out in the end.
If you trade up for upside, I'm okay with it.
Even that, but like you're trading multiple players for a non-quarterback. Yeah. Like that is just
I agree.
The player has to hit, Yeah, and it's like
that's fine. I understand. I understand that, but I'm fine with taking the swing. Like if it's like I know this is a bad example, but if it's like a Christian Watson-esque ceiling or a Trevor Penny type ceiling, I'm not saying as raw as them, but I'm just saying if it's that kind of a ceiling, go ahead.
I see it in that. Like I'm especially with Sky Moore on the board too. It was just, that was tough. The Buccaneers going up next. We gave it a C for their draft. They ended up getting Logan Hall at the first pick of the second round. Then Luka Decky, first Central Michigan tackle off the board is Luka Decky over Bernard Raymond in the second round. Rashad White, my guy, Rashad White in the third round. Kate Otten in the fourth round. Kicker, Jake Carmarda in the fourth round from Georgia. Fifth round, Zion McCollum. Sixth round, Keefe, who has the best hair in the game. And seventh round, Andre Anthony. So, Donnie, what do you think about this draft for the Buccaneers?
It wasn't very good. I'm just gonna throw it out there. I'm a huge Logan Hall fan. I probably like Logan Hall more than any of these guys. But I mean, he'll be a good player for you. You need pass rushers because you lost JPP. I'm not saying he is gonna be JPP, but I'm just saying you need more pass rushers, and they got a good one. Luka Decky, I mean, come on, what are we doing? Like you took the wrong one. Like just like the Jaguars with Snoop Connor, you took the wrong one. Like I don't know what you're thinking there. Rashad White, I mean, it's a fine pick, but there were better options on the board. I know Max really likes the pick, but I don't know. There were better options on the board. Cade Orton, they're going after blocking tight ends, which I respect. Maybe he's a fullback. Actually, they drafted 2 blocking tight ends in this draft, if I'm not mistaken. So we'll see how that turns out. Maybe Gronk's retiring. They took a punter in the 4th round. So
kicker,
punter. Who cares? You took a special teamer in the 4th round. That's not ideal. Zion McCollum was probably the best pick they had. Like, how did he fall to the 5th round? I don't understand. I know Nick will probably explain that one because that's his guy. And then I don't even know how to pronounce that name. Kept, I didn't watch, but I know he's a blocking tight end. And then Andre Anthony, whatever. So I don't know. I don't like this draft. It's not very good.
The best 2 picks in this draft are McCollum, which I also like. It's like the Chanel thing. Like I just don't understand how a guy can test that well, have some production on tape, and fall at that point in the draft when other players are going ahead who have neither. Like that's just it is bewildering to me that this is happening. And I thought we were figuring this out as a league. Like this year we just kind of I don't know what happened with some of these guys. McCollum being there was a great pick, and the second best pick in my opinion is probably Andre Anthony, just because he had some production, has some length, and got hurt, so he didn't really show it fully at LSU. I did not like this draft. I thought they reached on a lot of players at low value positions. The Rashad White pick was like maybe my favorite high pick of the draft, and even then, like it's a running back, like whatever. Gadecki's gonna play guard. I think he's a better tackle than the guard. Logan Hall I like, but it's too early for me. And then Kate Otten, like, all right, blocking tight end too early. It's just like I was not. They seem like they really tried to pick up ancillary pieces and like treated their roster like it was last year, where they had nothing to fill. Whereas I think they do have more holes than they really believe they do.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Logan Hall pick was a reach in my eyes, but I like the fit and the Todd Bowles defense, like a 3-5 tech. So I like that. Gadecki was a reach in my opinion. Rashad White I liked, but like he's a receiving back. He's a guy who's not a pure runner, and you're not going to want to give him any handoffs. But I think even like convert him to wide receiver, put him in the slot a little bit. Like he's an excellent receiving back. Get him the ball in space. Jake Carmarda, taking kicker 4th round, man. Ugh. Yeah. And then Zion McCollum, I think was a good pick. So I gave it a C+. I think the Bucs had a whatever draft. We ended up giving him a C for this. All right, let's go to the Dallas Cowboys, who Ben, who is my brother, he's been on the show actually before. He said, like, with the first pick, he was praying for Tyler Linderbaum. And when Roger Goodell said Tyler, he jumped up at his friend's house, ran around the house, and it ended up being Tyler Smith. the 24th overall pick.
He took the wrong Tyler.
He took the wrong Tyler. I've never been more devastated in my life than when I saw it was Tyler Smith and not Tyler Linderbaum. In the second round, they got Sam Williams. And third round, they got Jalen Tolbert. Fourth round, Jake Ferguson. Fifth round, Matt Let's-Go. Fifth round, Deron Bland. Fifth round, Damone Clark. Fifth round, John Ridgeway. They had 4 picks in the fifth round. And finally, Devin Harper in the sixth round to close it out. So, Nick, what do you think of this Cowboys draft?
Yeah, I mean, the mid-round picks were great. I loved Tolbert. I thought he should have gone higher than he did. Maybe a little bit of a, too similar to who's the other receiver that they have there? Michael Gallup. But,
yeah,
I don't care. They just needed a receiver. I loved Jake Ferguson in this draft. I thought, I kind of said he goes to Dallas, but, that was a good pick. Matt Let's-Go, a great developmental player. Damone Clark, I think if his medicals check out, could at least be a good special teamer for you, but also might have some ability to play. Good mid-round picks. The thing that hurts me with this draft and brings it down to a B- for me is I didn't like their first 2 picks. I thought it was way too early for Sam Williams. I thought there were more developed edge rushers with more athletic edge rushers on the board. He fits like their size profile, but outside of that, like I don't really understand why he's going that early in the draft. And then Tyler Smith, like I had a 3rd round grade on. That was one of the picks in the 1st round that I was not a fan of. I don't think he's a day 1 starter in the NFL. I think he's a guy that could develop into a very good player, but they're probably going to throw him into guard right away, and we'll see. He's the highest penalized offensive lineman in this draft, going to the highest penalized offensive line in the NFL. So that's fun.
Yeah.
You took the wrong Tyler. That's all really comment on that. Also, I don't think they care about off-field issues because they drafted Sam Williams, a guy with off-field issues, and they took another guy with off-field issues last year in the 2nd round, Kelvin Joseph, and look how that's turning out. He's already
getting the Nebraska guy too, I believe, or the Marshall guy. The Marshall.
Yeah, what's his name? Josh Bell or something.
Yeah, so I mean, they clearly don't care.
Yeah, they don't care. Shout out Jerry Jones. And then Jalen Tolbert in the 3rd round, I thought, quite frankly, was your best pick. I mean, I think this guy I think he'll plug in right away as your wide receiver 3. I know they have James Washington. They signed him. I would rather have Jalen Tolbert on my team than James Washington. Just going to throw that out there. I don't know. This draft overall was fine. Jake Ferguson also at 129. I mean, he's a blocking tight end, so whatever. Yeah. Is he a full? He could be a fullback. Who knows? But overall, I think this draft it's better than your last year draft. So Cowboy fans, if you want to take away, it's better than last year, but you drafted the wrong Tyler.
Yeah. Last year they got Michael Parsons. Is probably not a superstar this year. Tyler Smith, I think, will work in Dallas. He's still young. He's a violent player in the run game. So I think it'll work for them. Tyler Linderbaum would have been awesome. Sam Williams, I actually had right around that range. So I don't hate the pick. He tested out really well. I thought he played really well in the SEC. Not a very strong player, but he's very athletic right now. Jalen Tolbert, I really like. I know they just re-signed Michael Gallup, but I think he could be that next receiver in that offense after CeeDee Lamb and Michael Gallup and be that number 3 for you. Jake Ferguson, love that pick. He was a guy I was very high on in this draft. I thought he really showed out the Senior Bowl, and his tape was really good. My favorite pick, honestly, is Deron Bland, the 5th rounder. I had him as a late third round grade for me. He's another guy I really watched late in the process, and he was really good at Fresno State. And I think that's a good guy to get in that secondary. They need more help in that secondary, and I think it doesn't look sexy as a 5th round pick, but he could actually develop and contribute on that team. So I'm really a big fan of that. So overall, the Cowboys had a decent draft. I didn't love the first round pick, but otherwise, I like this draft a lot. So I gave it a B+. Let's go over to the New York Giants, who had a very interesting draft, to say the least. So they get Kayvon Thibodeau at 5th overall, then Evan Neal at 7th overall, then Wan'Dale Robinson in the 2nd round, then Joshua Zudu in the 3rd round, Cordell Flott in the 3rd round, Daniel Bellinger 4th round, Dane Belton 4th round, Micah McFadden 4th round, DJ Davidson 5th round, Marcus McKeithen 5th round, and Darian Beavers in the 6th round. Donnie, what do you think of this Giants draft?
You crushed day 1. You absolutely crushed day 1. Kayvon Thibodeau arguably has the highest ceiling of any edge rusher in the draft. I mean, it's close for Trayvon Walker, but I would argue also Kayvon Thibodeau needs to be in that conversation. Evan Neal, you quite possibly maybe had the best tackle in the draft. I had him as OT2, but he definitely has the highest ceiling of any tackle in the draft. So, yeah, day 1, you absolutely crushed it. The rest. I don't know what you're doing. Like, why are you taking Wan'Dale Robinson at 43? He's literally the worst version of Kadarius Toney. Like, are you trading Kadarius Toney? You said in the press conference you weren't. So what's the point on drafting Wan'Dale when there were so many better options on the board? You don't need two gadgety slot wide receivers. You're not the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, the third round pick, I didn't even know who it was, quite frankly. Actually, no, I did. I remember. I had this guy on my board, Joshua Ezadu or something like that.
Ezudi,
I had this
yeah.
guy. Azudu. I had this guy 248 on my board. You drafted him at 67, so he's not gonna play. I don't even know if he's even gonna be fighting for a spot. He's not that good. Cordell Flo, I'm not the biggest fan of. I know Nick likes him more than me, but I don't know. The pick was kind of whatever. Daniel Bellinger, I mean, once again, a whatever pick. I guess you need tight end, but he's not a starting caliber tight end, so whatever. I guess Dane Belton, Iowa, shout out. He has a high ceiling. He has great ball skills. He had like 6 interceptions last year, but I mean, I guess it's your Logan Ryan replacement. I guess. I mean, I guess I'm not too sure. And then the rest of the picks were just kind of whatever. Darian Beavers, I thought was quite frankly your best pick of any pick that isn't day one. So, yeah, he's a guy who honestly could be playing. He could have some playing time year one, even though he was a 6th-round pick. I thought he was actually pretty good. So, overall, if you take away day one, the draft is awful, but you crush day one so much that, I don't know, I'd probably give it like a B, maybe a B minus.
I gave it a C plus. I think we had a C plus as a group. This is my problem with grading drafts based and weighing the higher picks. Is yes, they did well with Thibodeau and Neal. I think, and I think Eric Eager at PFF said this. Well, you can't give them an A in this draft for getting Kayvon Thibodeau and Evan Neal. Like a smart team that needs help should take Kayvon Thibodeau and Evan. Like, good job. Like, those are A picks, but you should be expected to make those picks. If they took Jermaine Johnson and Trevor Penning at 5 and 7, this would be like a complete F. So, you know, that's, you know, you should do that. Wan'Dale Robinson, way too early, too small. I think they should be sticking with Toney, even if they have issues. Like, I think that guy had been their most electric receiver play for a little bit there that we've seen for them since Beckham Jr. I don't know why you're giving up on him. And Wan'Dale, I never was a fan of even before some of the measurables came out. Too early for me. Ezudi, I actually did like a little bit. Still way too early. I didn't really understand it. Cordell Flo, a guy that I liked. I had a 4th-round grade on. They have way too many slot corners now. I don't really understand that. And they took another one with Dane Belton, who actually really liked that pick. But again, like another deep slot. Maybe he comes as too high safety, but it just guys who play kind of around the box and not a lot of outside corners. They did get some value late linebackers with McFadden and Beavers, who I both had 3rd, 4th-round grades on, but I don't know. It was a strange process to me outside of those first 2 picks, getting positions that they really already have.
Yeah, Nick, I'm glad you brought it up because I was going to bring it up too. It's like, congratulations, like you didn't mess up the 5th and 7th overall pick. It's like where Kayvon Thibodeau falls into your lap at 5th overall, which is when you consider the first 4 picks were defensive players and none of them were Kayvon Thibodeau, who I ended up having as my number 2 overall player. Ridiculous. And the Giants smartly said, just pick him up here. And then at 7th overall, you're smart enough to take Kayvon at 5 to not risk, someone going up to 6 and trading with the Panthers to get Kayvon Thibodeau, because you knew at 7th overall the Panthers were going to take a tackle and you take one of the other 2 tackles and you get Evan Neal as my OT1. So look, those are the 2 exact picks I would make for the Giants. So I give them credit for that, which is why I give them overall a C plus, because they didn't screw that up. But afterwards, I mean, my God, man, Wan'Dale Robinson, who I actually really like in this draft more than most people, but at 43 overall over some other receivers in this class like George Pickens or Sky Moore. I mean, it was unbelievable that Wan'Dale Robinson went that high. I think he's a gadget player in the NFL, and I don't know if I would take a gadget player at 43 overall. He's 5'8", 179 pounds, 28-inch arms too. He's just not an elite athlete by any means for his size either. I mean, this really, to me, screams they're done with Kadarius Toney, and they really might try to trade him. I don't know how you're gonna have both of them in that offense. So I don't love that pick at all, especially if you give up Kadarius Toney. And they got both North Carolina guards in Joshua Ezudi and Marcus McKeithen. If they wanted to draft Sam Howell to continue North Carolina connection, they probably could have done that too. What I really hate is that they didn't take Malik Willis, and they had so many opportunities. In fact, they had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 opportunities to take Malik Willis in this draft, and they didn't do it, which really hurts me because I said, and Donnie brought this up, I think first, he would be awesome in New York because you have Joe Shane there. as your general manager, and you have Brian Dable as your head coach. They were the guys, or at least Brian Dable was the guy that coached up Josh Allen and became who he is today. And of course, Josh Allen had a lot to do with that, but they coached up a high ceiling guy to be a best quarterback in the league, or one of the best quarterbacks in the league. You could do that with Malik Willis. I mean, for him to be available with their 81st overall pick, and instead of taking Malik Willis, you go Wan'Dale Robinson, Joshua Zudu, Cordell Flott. That's a joke, in my opinion. You just declined Daniel Jones' fifth-year option. It's obvious that you don't think he's a long-term answer. I really think they should have swung for the fences for Malik Willis. And not even swung for the fences. Just swing. It's the 81st overall pick, dude. And I really, really hated the Giants passed him up 3 different times on day 2, which so gross. So overall, C-plus draft for the Giants. I mean, they didn't screw up the 5th and 7th pick, which is hard to do in this draft. But otherwise, after that,
ask the Raiders.
Yeah, well, yeah, but they didn't screw it up, and it was tough. Let's go to the Eagles now. We ended up giving a B in this draft, and really, they traded one of their picks for A.J. Brown. So A.J. Brown's included in this, I guess. Jordan Davis was the 13th overall pick for them. They traded for A.J. Brown. They got Cam Jurgens in the 2nd round, Nakobe Dean in the 3rd round, Kyron Johnson in the 6th round, and Grant Calcaterra in the 6th round. So I guess I'll go first for this one. I ended up giving the Eagles a B for this draft because Jordan Davis at 13, I understand. You traded for A.J. Brown, I think is a slam dunk trade for them. I didn't actually know that he and Jalen Hurts were like really good friends, so makes sense there. Jordan Davis, I knew he was going to go this high, and he's saved the Ravens. The Ravens ended up having my favorite draft of all time because of the Philadelphia Eagles. Because if the Eagles did not take him at 13, Baltimore was sprinting that card in at 14. I'm convinced, and they wouldn't have taken Kyle Hamilton. So good for the Ravens, for the Eagles, taking Jordan Davis before them. Nakobe Dean in the 3rd round. We got some reports that he has a torn pec. He's refusing to get surgery on that torn pec, and it's a major, major issue. So injuries are why he dropped down in the 3rd round. But if this guy is okay and ends up being okay, this is my linebacker 1. And this is my guy who I had, I think, a top 20 overall grade. For him to fall to 83 overall was absolutely insane. So if the Eagles, who needed linebackers, we kept saying, oh, they should take a linebacker with one of their 2 first-round picks. Well, they got my LB1 in the 3rd round. So you got A.J. Brown, you got Jordan Davis, you got Nakobe Dean, you got Cam Jurgens, I think was a reach. Kyron Johnson was a little bit of a reach. Grant Calcaterra. I think I was too low on this draft. I might bump him up a little bit overall, but I like this draft a lot, and I might give him a B+, A- because of the A.J. Brown trade and everything else. So I think the Eagles did a really good job.
I was lower on this draft, and there's a consensus that believes this is like one of the best drafts this year. I think it's more towards the middle of the pack, and I know I'm a Washington fan, so maybe I'm not allowed to say that, but yeah, the best move they did was the A.J. Brown trade, in my opinion. Like, that is the impactful move that if Jalen Hurts is any good, which, we'll see. I think he's all right. You'll know, and next year, if he's not that good, then you go get another quarterback. I liked Calcaterra late. I thought that was a guy I had higher than where they took him. I think they need more tight ends. Nakobe Dean, obviously, we'll see if it works out as a slam dunk. If not, then we'll see. But a lot of low value positions. Trading up for Jordan Davis, not a fan. I know people were all over Jordan Davis, and I'm probably the highest on this podcast on Jordan Davis, but we had him lower. Like, we did. That was kind of the thing we had as a low value position. It's a run stuffer. The Eagles have stopped the run year after year with injuries at that position. I don't think they needed Jordan Davis to continue to stop the run, and sending picks to go get him, I think, was quite frankly a not very smart move. But you know what? They went ahead and did it, and it was flashy, and people are going to praise him for it. And then Cam Jurgens, people are for some reason very high on all of a sudden just because Jason Kelce was like, that's me. Great. Jason Kelce, who is a known renowned scout, has said that Cam Jurgens is going to be the next Jason Kelce. We'll give it 4 years and see if he is, because he really does need some development. That pick was also a reach to me.
A B is too mean. I'll go ahead and say it. A B is too mean. If we're factoring the fact that they traded for a top 10 wide receiver in the NFL at the age of only like 24 or 25, this is too mean. A.J. Brown's one of the best receivers in the league, and they traded a first-round pick for him, and it made our trade with the Ravens look much worse. Thank you, Steve Keim. And then Jordan Davis, yeah, it was a bad pick. They traded up to get him, but I mean, he'll work in Philly. Like, he'll work probably. I don't know. We'll see. But, yeah, I just think we're being too mean on this draft, dude. Like, why is it a B? You traded for a top 10 receiver in the draft. Or in the draft. Sorry, in the NFL. You traded for a top 10 receiver in the NFL. Like, I don't really understand. Cam Jurgens, I mean, yeah, shout out Jason Kelsey. Apparently, you're going to be the next Jason Kelsey. That's not how it works. Sorry. You're going to need a lot of development. And, hate to break it to you. Is he even going to play center? Like, is he? Like, they drafted Landon Dickerson last year, and quite frankly, I think he's better at center than he is at guard, so I don't really know what they're doing. And Nakobe Dean is going to be the steal of the draft if he can stay healthy and if he could possibly get surgery. Please get surgery because I want to see you play good. Overall, though, I mean, whatever. This draft was just whatever. Like, I think we're being too mean on it. I think it's a B plus, maybe even an A minus. But the more I look at the later round picks, they're kind of whatever. But if you add in the fact they traded for AJ Brown, like the draft itself was kind of whatever. But if you add in the fact that they got AJ Brown, you need to make this at least a B plus or an A minus.
Yeah, I actually just switched it from I think I had a B to an A minus because the more thinking about it, like man, they got Nakobe Dean, they just got AJ Brown, and Jordan Davis is a reach, but still I understand why you took him there, but. I don't know. I looking back, I like this draft more and more. All right, let's get to next team, the Commanders. We ended up giving a B minus for this draft. Yeah.
Everybody. I'll just let Nick go on ahead. So yeah, I'll just sit back here.
Donnie was the one who made this grade that high. I had it C plus ish. Like let's just okay.
You want to read the picks first?
Right. You can read them off really quick. All right.
All right. Jahan Dotson, first round. Fedarian Mathis, second round. Brian Robinson Jr., third round. Percy Butler, fourth round. Sam Howell, fifth round. Cole Turner, fifth round. Chris Paul, seventh round. The tackle, not the point guard. And Christian Holmes, seventh round pick. All right. Now, Donnie and I are going to go grab lunch real quick and let Nick.
I'll be right back.
Paul's probably playing guard. Really good O-line depth now. Okay. The process positionally, sure. They needed a receiver. I liked taking defensive tackle in the second round. I've done that in previous mocks. Other people didn't like that. They needed a safety. They needed a tight end. They were going to take a running back. It was too early to take one, but they did take one. And they traded back, which was great. They needed more picks, trade back. Awesome, because you stupidly sent them away for Carson Wentz. I would have, if I were GM and been given this team in the middle of this year, still drafted a quarterback high despite having Carson Wentz because I don't believe in him at all. This team was not going to because Carson Wentz is their guy. And I think Sam Howell, who they had as like a top 40 player supposedly, they would have taken probably pretty high if they didn't have him. And they weren't going to because they were afraid of Jalen Hurts and Carson Wentz's ego again. But then in the fifth round, he's there. And guess what? Like, who cares at that point? Take a guy who might develop into the long-term starter. So awesome. Like, that could be the pick of the draft right there. I don't want to say that because I'm probably going to jinx them, but like, excellent. Like, wow, Sam Howell at pick 144. Like, if he hits, like, the rest of this draft doesn't matter. Like, I've said this with other drafts. Like, Sam Howell hits and he's their starting quarterback. Who cares about the other picks? You're good. Let's say this, though. Every single other pick for me was about a reach by a round. Jahan Dotson, I don't know why PFF dropped him so low. I think his one issue is that he's small. I think he does have explosiveness. His testing wasn't horrible, but I think it shows up more on tape than it does in the testing. I had him at like 33 on my board, so it was a reach, and one of the bigger reaches in the first round. But that being said, in terms of first round history, I don't call it egregious. They did trade back. They got a guy I think can help their offense. Fedarian Mathis was not the defensive tackle I would have taken at pick 47. He's a run stuffer. Again, it's like the same thing with Jordan Davis. Like, I don't think he has much pass rush upside. I think he's like a poor man's Deron Payne. I don't really, sure, like he's going to impact. He's going to replace Tim Settle. Tim Settle's getting paid $4 million in the open market. Like, great. That's around what Fedarian Mathis is probably going to make year 3. Brian Robinson in the third round. I liked Brian Robinson. Had a fourth round grade on him. Like, and Antonio Gibson just went for 1,000 yards. And I know Antonio Gibson, there's some analytics saying like Washington was one of the teams with the most perfectly blocked runs of any team. And Antonio Gibson is horrifically bad at getting yards on perfectly blocked runs, which I don't understand at all. And Brian Robinson is very good at it. So maybe that's the reason. Like, Gibson's just terrible vision, hasn't learned the position yet. Maybe they should have him play more receiver. Percy Butler, special teamer. That's just Troy Apke again. Cole Turner, big. Like, he's just big. Like, we'll see. I don't know. He's a little bit quick. Chris Paul, I loved in the 7th. I think he could be a guard someday for them. Christian Holmes I didn't know much about. Like, it just was very underwhelming, quite frankly. Like, they really, they filled holes, but just, took a second rounder in the first, took a third rounder in the second, took a fourth rounder in the third. And if you put Sam Howell at 11 and move everything back, I might feel better about it. But, quite frankly, this draft hinges on what is Sam Howell and what is Jahan Dotson, and they both need to be hits.
Mm-hmm.
I literally have absolutely nothing to say after that, so just move on.
I guess I'll talk about Sam Howell.
What do you want me to say? Like, he just covered everything.
Nick covered everything. I think really beautifully. I think I should probably go into Sam Howell in the 5th round. Is, I promise you, for as long as I will be covering the NFL draft, I promise you my QB1 will never fall to the 5th round ever again. This is egregious, in my opinion. Like, this was, I kept watching the NFL draft, and I was like, this has got to be Sam Howell. Like, they have to. I started saying that at, like, pick 40, and it fell to 144, which is absolutely horrific. The NFL is way too low in this quarterback class. Sam Howell, I think, will be the quarterback in the future. What's up, Nick?
It's the one thing I keep hearing. I know he was worse this year, but there is this belief that Sam Howell was, like, bad this year. Like,
he was
played
not
bad football.
No, he wasn't.
Like, he was not bad this year. He played a bad game against Virginia Tech. I guarantee you evaluators saw the bad game against Virginia Tech and were like, all right, well, that's it. He's just not. People we saw weren't ranking him very high at the start of the year. I don't think people liked him as much as other people did. And as soon as they saw that game, they're like, oh, well, yeah, he's off our board. Like, great. You can't do that. You have to evaluate multiple games. And he ramped it up as the year went on, figured it out. He wasn't by any means what we saw in the first 2 years, but the fact that he walked in there as a young player and played the way that he did, it's the same thing with Derek Stingley. Like, young players in a tough situation, North Carolina, known football powerhouse, right? Like, walking in there as a freshman and playing as well as he did, sure, I'll take it. Thanks.
Yeah, the fact, and I hate that he's saying, like, oh, he didn't play as well as the last 2 years, because I push back against that. Yeah, as a passer, yes. He was an unbelievable runner this year. Like, he literally tied the PFF college record for a Power 5 player on most forced missed tackles per attempt, tying Javonte Williams, dude. Sam Howell broke a tackle on over 40% of his attempts, and he had over 100 attempts. It's not like he just did like 5 attempts or so. He had over 100 attempts, and he was breaking tackles. So, look, you lose Diami Brown, you lose Daz Newsome, you lose Javonte Williams, you lose Michael Carter. He needed to be the guy, and for rushing and passing. And yes, he needs to, play in a more pro-style offense and learn how to go through his progressions more. But this guy had the second best tools in the class behind Malik Willis, in my opinion. He had a higher floor than Malik Willis because of how well he played. He's the only quarterback in this draft that's a true junior. Every other quarterback was in college for at least 4 years. Sam Howell's been starting for 3 years, has played excellent football for 3 years at North Carolina. 5th round pick is the most ridiculous thing I think I've ever seen. And I tweeted out my comp for him was Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott was a 4th round pick.
Yeah.
Sam Howell is a 5th round pick too. It's just like the NFL is just like, dude, he's there. He's there for you. And there was reports that came out, Nick, I'm glad you brought it up, that teams that didn't need a quarterback had Sam Howell as one of their top players, as one of the top quarterbacks and like a 2nd round pick. Teams that needed a quarterback were the ones that were lower on him. So what does that say to me? The ones that say, oh, the teams that can actually evaluate the quarterback position properly, they like this guy. The ones who keep screwing it up and had him fall to the 5th round, maybe they don't know what they're doing. And that's why Sam Howell's a 5th round pick. Nick, congratulations on getting your quarterback one in the 5th round, because
congrats
God.
On him getting Diami Brown back too after a tough
true.
True. I do think an underrated thing in this class, I just want to say really quick, is that shorter QB class. And I think we continue to come back to this. Like, height should not be part of the evaluation as much as it is. But I really think that's been a big thing as well.
Yeah. Oh, God. You mentioned it. Like, the rest of the class is not great. But if you get a quarterback one at 5th round, congratulations, man. Like, that's awesome. All right, final division now. Let's go to the right back to back, baby.
Apologies.
Arizona Cardinals is the first team we're talking about in the NFC West. And what they did, they traded away Marquise Brown. Or, I'm sorry, they got Marquise Brown, for a 1st round pick. So they didn't have a 1st round pick. But they took Trey McBride in the 2nd round, Cameron Thomas 3rd round, Myjai Sanders 3rd round, Keontae Ingram 6th round, Lacita Smith 6th round, Christian Matthew in the 7th round, Jesse Luketa in the 7th round, and Marquise Hayes in the 7th round. So Donnie, what do you think with the Cardinals draft?
So the Hollywood Brown trade looks better and better as each day passes on. Apparently the Cardinals knew DeAndre Hopkins. took PEDs, and they've known this apparently since like November, apparently. So they kind of had a feeling, hey, if none of the top wide receivers in the draft are there, we got to go get somebody. And you're reuniting Kyler Murray's favorite and the guy who he probably won a Heisman Trophy because of. And yeah, he has a drop issue, but drops are overrated. I think he's honestly, I would say he's about a top 25, maybe a top 30 receiver in the league. I mean, he just had 1,000 yards with terrible quarterback play in a run-heavy offense. Trey McBride in the second round, we don't relatively need tight end, but I'm okay with this because you took the best tight end in the class. I mean, he's Hunter Henry, so what do you want me to say? Like, he can be a good backup tight end to Zach Ertz, and with DeAndre Hopkins out, I'd imagine we're going to be playing him a lot more. And the Cardinals are on their lesson from last year, which I'm happy. When DeAndre Hopkins got hurt last year, our offense fell flat. We were flat out pathetic. Like, no one on our offense was able to do that good except for Zach Ertz, and all they had to do was cover him with, or just put him in double coverage against two people, and then we were screwed because AJ Green was, quite frankly, terrible last year. I didn't really think he was that good. He started off good because it helps when you have DeAndre Hopkins on the other side, so you're going up against CB2s and CB3s, but the moment that CB1s went up against him, he was pretty bad. And then Christian Kirk is a one-trick pony. Rondell Moore was hurt, and along with DeAndre Hopkins. So once D-Hop got hurt, our offense fell flat, so they realized, hey, we don't want to make that same mistake again. Let's go get Kyler more weapons. So traded for Hollywood Brown, his old college teammate. We needed a huge, dynamic, speedy guy. Like, yeah, we have Rondell Moore, but Hollywood is definitely faster than him, and Rondell and Hollywood kind of have two different skill sets. Rondell's more of a gadgety yak guy, while Hollywood is more of a deep threat guy, and we kind of needed that. Trey McBride, like I said, I thought it was a good pick. As long as it was him and not any other tight end, I was cool with it. And apparently they had a late first-round grade on him, which is kind of crazy to me. So we'll see how that works out. And then they went back-to-back defensive ends, which I thought was brilliant because we need defensive ends after losing Chandler Jones. Cameron Thomas at 87 I thought was a great pick. He can learn behind J.J. Watt. I mean, apparently it's reported he's going to play outside linebacker, which, I mean, he can. It's just I don't think that's his best spot for him. I think his best spot would be a 3-4 defensive end. And hopefully they learn quickly that is his spot because J.J. Watt would be a perfect mentor for him. Najee Sanders at 100 was a joke. That was a joke. I had this guy as a top 50 player in the class. I had him as my edge, my edge 9 or 8 or something. I had this guy ranked higher than Drake Jackson, and then I just took him in the late second round. Like, that's what I'm talking about. Like, I was thinking, like, if the Bucs would have taken him at 33, just hypothetically, like, yeah, I would have been a reach, but I would have been okay with it. Like, that's how high this guy should have gone. This guy should have been a second-round pick, and he fell all the way to the end of the third, which is a joke. I mean, I also think he fits the scheme fantastically. We need a 3-4 outside linebacker after losing Chandler Jones, and we got him. Keontae Ingram, I mean, this is Max's guy. I know he had him as a top 10 running back in the class. I wasn't that high on him. I would have preferred a few other guys. I would have preferred probably Tyler Goodson of Iowa. I feel like he was a better scheme fit for us because he can also work in the passing game, or at least better than Keontae, but I'm fine with this pick. He'll probably be honestly fighting for the second spot because we have our RB1 with James Conner, but we need a guy who can kind of split carries with Conner, and I think that's either going to be Benjamin or it's going to be Keontae because all of our other running backs aren't that great. Like Texas Smith from Virginia Tech, whatever, I guess. Bit of a reach for me. This guy's a UDFA, but whatever, I guess. Christian Matthew, I didn't even know who this guy was, but apparently he's 25 years old, so that's wild. He's a 25-year-old corner, and he's also 6'4", which is just kind of wild. So this guy's old and tall, but apparently they really liked him a lot. So whatever, I guess. Jesse Luketa, or however you pronounce his name. Yeah. Luketa, thank you. This is a guy who's just the combine killed him because he ran such an awful 40 time and his combine performance just wasn't very good. But on the tape, he looked pretty good. But my question is, where are we going to play him? Like, I don't think he fits this scheme at all. I think he's a 4-3 linebacker and a weak side linebacker. Like, that's not what we, or a strong side linebacker. Like, that's not what we run. Like, I don't really know where this guy's going to play. Like, maybe he can play inside and be a depth piece behind Isaiah Simmons and David Collins. But I think this is a guy who probably won't make our roster, but will get picked up immediately by someone else because I just don't think he fits our scheme at all. And then Marquise Hayes is a guy, like, he shouldn't have fallen to 224 or 244. Like, he shouldn't have. I had this guy as like a 4th-round pick, a late 4th-round pick, and he fell all the way to 244. I wouldn't be surprised if this guy, in a couple years from now, maybe he gets the starting spot at right guard or maybe in left guard, because offensive line, as of right now, it's okay. We have left tackle secure, left guard is secure. We have Rodney Hudson. He's good. Kelvin Beacham's been a very solid right tackle for us for the last few years. Our hole is right guard, and we brought in Will Hernandez, and we have Josh Jones, who sucks, and Marquise Hayes. I think he could also be in that fighting spot for that spot. So overall, I don't know. I'd give it a B+. I'm not trying to sound too biased. Like, I thought our draft was really good. Like, Trey McBride was kind of whatever. Like, we didn't really need tight end, but if they're going to use Max Williams as a blocking tight end, like what they were doing in the past, then I'm okay with it. And I think Zach Ertz can be a good mentor around him. But the issue is like, I don't necessarily know why you needed him when you signed Zach Ertz to a 3-year deal, unless you plan on cutting him maybe after his second year. But yeah. Overall, I thought it was a good draft. You got 2 defensive ends I really like in the 3rd round, and I think both of them get a lot of playing time this year.
Yeah, I liked that they got 2 guys that had 4th-round grades on at guard in their 200th and further picks that they had. They got Smith and Hayes. I think they could both play. 2 edge players, Zaneed, Tom Sanders, liked both of them at those spots. Cool. Hammering home kind of the pass catching thing to continue to do this. I think Trey McBride helps them in the areas that Kyler is the worst at throwing the ball, intermediate, middle of field. That'll help. And then I think the reason for the Marquise Brown trade is, although they've invested a lot at receiver, they've invested in guys with like high ceilings and just hasn't really panned out. This guy, at least, I think, no matter what, will separate for you downfield and has some floor because of that. And I think they can at least rely on there being some deep game element regardless this year, as long as he is healthy.
Yeah, I love him taking over for Christian Kirk in that vertical slot kind of role too. I think Marquise Brown will be a lot better in Arizona than he was in Baltimore, because I just think Kyle's a way better deep passer, and Marquise Brown's a deep receiver. And look, the Cardinals, this is really, to me, what this trade was. It was definitely a steep price for Marquise Brown, but at the same time, like, it's for Kyler Murray, because right now, like, so much stuff has happened this offseason that kind of tells me he's not the happiest in Arizona right now. So what they do is they try to get his college receiver, Marquise Brown, who he's really good friends with, try to make him happier, because you're going to have to sign Kyler Murray to a contract very, very soon. And you're going to want to, make him as happy as possible in order to stay in Arizona, because he is your franchise quarterback. So yes, the 1st-round pick is very high and very steep for Marquise Brown, especially considering you're going to have to pay him very soon as well. Probably $18 to $20 million Marquise Brown is going to command.
Depending on how he plays, honestly.
Christian Kirk got $18 million, so I think Marquise Brown's going to be in that range too.
Yeah, fair enough.
But I think, honestly, like, this is a trade this is the only team in the NFL that would trade a 1st-round pick for Marquise Brown, because they needed Kyler Murray to be happy. And I think this is a kind of like try to make your quarterback happy move. Otherwise, his draft was pretty good. I like Cam Thomas, Myjai Sanders was good. And I like the Marquise Hayes pick a lot in the 7th round. And Keontae Ingram's my guy in the 6th round too. So I like that. All right, let's move on to the Rams now. The Los Angeles Rams, the most famous team in every NFL draft. So they had the 104th overall pick. That was their first pick. Right at the end of the 3rd round, they took Logan Bruss, a tackle from Wisconsin. Then the 4th round, Jacoby Durant. Then they got 5th round, Kyron Williams. 6th round, Quentin Lake. 6th round, Darion Kendrick. 6th round, Daniel Hardy. 7th round, Russ Yeast. And 7th round, AJ Akuri. So, Nick, what do you think with the Rams draft?
I think the Rams drafts are just Sean McVay showing people that he knows, like, players and no one else knows. Like, I think that's what it is. Like, I think that they just go, look, we know this school that no one knows. Jacoby Durant had a good game against Clemson. That was kind of his thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But he's small, played at a small school, wasn't fantastic outside of that Clemson game. And, like, I don't know, like, sure, took him in the 4th round because of that. Kyron Williams famously didn't test great. Quentin Lake's probably their best pick. I like Logan Bruss. I did. That pick I think will be impactful. I like him more at tackle than guard. Sounds like they're going to play him at guard. But the rest was like, guys, I mean, like, Darion Kendrick, I think there was an argument probably shouldn't have been drafted just because of how poorly he tested. This draft is just another, like, the Rams don't care about the draft type draft.
Yeah.
Their draft is extremely forgettable. Like, I guarantee you none of these guys are ever going to start. I guarantee you none of them will. Yeah. Like, I don't know. Their draft is, for me, it's kind of forgettable. Maybe Bruss will, because the offensive line is so bad, which, by the way, that's something that people need to realize about the Rams. Their offensive line is bad. Like, it is quite frankly bad. Like, you watch it,
man. They held up pretty well against Tampa.
Losing Andrew Whitworth is going to hurt a lot. It's
Because
gonna
they
hurt a
just
lot.
upped Nopum, and he was really good when
I
Woodward
like
got
Nope. I was
hurt.
gonna say
Yeah.
I like Nopum a lot. I think their offensive line's gonna be okay.
I don't know. I have questions about it, but I don't know. I mean, it's better than ours. That's all. That's all that matters. But I don't know. This draft it's fine, I guess. Like I don't know. What do you want me to say? Like Kyron Williams in the 5th round. I mean, I'm happy he went that late because his combine was so poor. And then Deron Kendrick in the 6th round. Like I agree with you guys. He probably shouldn't have been drafted because, quite frankly, his tape wasn't ideal and he tested horribly. So that's also not great. But I don't know. The draft is kind of forgettable. I don't know. I'll give it a C.
Yeah, the Rams, I think, one, they don't really care about the draft that much, obviously. I gave them a C for this draft, too. They also don't care about combine testing at all because they took Kyron Williams and Darion Kendrick, two of the least athletic players that we saw at the combine. Darion Kendrick, his combine was awful, man. He scored, I think, a 15th percentile athlete. He ran a 4.840, dude. 4.8.
Yeah,
Jordan Davis was like 4.82, wasn't he? That's
no,
insane.
4.7, I believe, wasn't it? Didn't he run
No,
the
I think it was
4.7s?
like 4.82 or something like that. But anyway, like
Yeah.
0.03 off of a corner on your same team when you're 150 pounds heavier, like that is awful. Darion Kendrick, really bad athlete, and Kyron Williams, really bad athlete. But I don't know. I think Kyron Williams in that offense will do some things well. I like Quentin Lake. After that, I mean, Logan Bruss is fine. Jacoby Durant, fine. Like, this is a whatever draft. I really wasn't impressed by all of this draft. All right, 2 more teams now. 49ers. Let's go to their draft real quick. And the San Francisco 49ers, they had their first pick at 61 overall. They took Drake Jackson, then Tyrion Davis-Price, then Danny Gray in the 3rd round, Spencer Burford, 4th round, Samuel Womack, 5th round, Nick Zakelj, 6th round, Kalia Davis, 6th round, Tariq Castro Fields, 6th round, and Brock Purdy was Mr. Irrelevant. So, Nick, what do you think of the 49ers draft?
This is like becoming the Niners thing where they're like half their picks I love and half their picks I just don't understand at all. And I think it's quite frankly, I think it's John Lynch is making the good picks, and I think Kyle Shanahan's making the bad picks. I think that's what it is.
49er fans are gonna disagree with that.
Yeah, whatever. Drake Jackson, they needed more edge help. I thought there was a great value there at pick 61. Spencer Burford, a guy that I had a little low on the board, but I think has the potential to be a long-term starter for a team at tackle or guard. I loved that pick in the 4th round for them. I know they've invested some high picks on the O-line that haven't worked out. I think that was good. Tariq Castro Fields, steal in the 6th, in my opinion. Max is definitely going to agree on that one. I think he has great developmental traits, and I think his tape really wasn't that bad. I had a 4th round grade on him, so I liked that. It's just these middle round picks really seem like Shanahan trying to recreate what he's had in the again. Like, why are we drafting more running backs? Like, they draft a ton of running backs. They have good running backs. They still draft more running backs. And not only that, Tyrion Davis-Price I had as a 7th round grade. Like, he's not that good. Like, this guy he's not a right athlete. He's got some burst. He's not really that shifty. He has no vision. He just bounces the ball outside, bounces it outside every time. Not NFL ready in think in terms of a running back. Maybe they think he's better in a zone scheme. I don't really believe that, but we'll see. And then Danny Gray, I know was like a late riser for a lot of people. My comp for him was like big Alton Robinson, and Kyle Shanahan is in love with Alton Robinson, so that's why he's here. I mean, that was a reach to me though.
I didn't like this draft. I'm just gonna be honest about it. I thought Drake Jackson was a great pick. I think he's going to work out very well with Nick Bosa on the other side. Tariq Castro Fields, I know that's Max's guy. I had him rising up just the day before the draft on my board. I had him like in the 140s, I believe. Took him at 221. I thought that was a great pick. And then the rest of the picks were not good. Why are you taking more running backs? Like, I already know Nick said it, but like, why are you taking more running backs? You don't need them. You really, really don't need more running backs. Like, you traded up for Trey Sermon, and he didn't even play 100 snaps last year. Like, what are you doing? Why are you taking more running backs? Danny Gray, when there were many better receivers on the board, like, if you would have taken Khalil Shakir right there, holy crap, that would have been phenomenal. That would have been phenomenal, but you took a guy who, like, I didn't even have as a top 22 wide receiver. I think I had him, like, wide receiver, like, 24 or something like that. I have to go back and check. I'm not opening up that big board anymore because I'm finally done with this stupid draft. But overall, I mean, Spencer Burford, I know that's Nick's guy. I wasn't the biggest fan on him. Like, I had him, like, at 180-something. You took him at 134, like, whatever, I guess. He has versatility to play along that O-line, I guess. I don't know. This draft wasn't very good, but if Drake Jackson hits, it's going to look a lot better.
By the way, I said Alton Robinson. I meant Aldrick Robinson.
I was gonna say, I was racking my head a little bit, but I was like, whatever, I'll let it slide. Yeah, I gave the 49ers a C too. I love the Drake Jackson pick, but my God, you guys hit it again. But Tyrion Davis-Price, first of all, should not have been taken in the 3rd round. Second of all,
he shouldn't have been drafted, in my opinion. Like,
yeah,
he shouldn't have been.
Second of all, the 49ers are a team that knows, like, man, they've been making it work with undrafted free agents and running back. Like, why are we still doing this? Why? And you took Trey Sermon. It's like, why are you taking another 3rd round running back? And they look for speed at position. Tyrion Davis-Price is not a very speedy running back. Like, that was like where I was very dumbfounded by that pick. Danny Gray, I'm gonna hold off of like bashing this pick. I think Khalil Shakir would have been awesome, but Danny Gray would hold off on bashing. His hands are terrible. But everything else about him, like, he's got really good speed, he's a really good separator. I think he'll work in San Francisco. So to save face, because I think he'll eventually work in San Francisco, I'm just going to hold off on saying it's a bad pick just because I think it'll work there. Spencer Burford, I think, is a good pick. Tariq Castlefield is an awesome pick. Very good athlete. Started at Penn State for a lot of years. I think a 4-year starter. Was always, like, good, not great at Penn State, but, like, a really good athlete and a good, not great production is, like, a 6th-round pick. I think that's too low. Love Brock Purdy at the tail end of the 7th round. It's my guy right there. Mr. Irrelevant. So congratulations to Brock Purdy. Enjoy your parade in Disney World. You're going to get there. Brock Purdy, I actually really liked in this draft. I had him above Bailey Zappi. I know how insane that sounds because Bailey Zappi would have put Sam Howell. But still, I actually like Brock Purdy. Obviously, he's not going to play at San Francisco, but I think he'd be a really nice back quarterback.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see about that. We'll see about that.
If that he plays over Trey Lance, that'll be something. All right. Final team, the Seattle Seahawks. They go with Charles Cross in the 9th overall pick, then Boye Mafe in the 2nd round, Kenneth Walker the 3rd, 2nd round, Abraham Lucas 3rd round, Kobe Bryant 4th round, Tariq Woolen 5th round, Tyreek Smith 5th round, Bo Melton 7th round, and Derek Young 7th round. Donnie, what did you think of the Seahawks draft?
So the Seahawks know they're going to be bad next year, which makes sense by the way they drafted. They drafted 2 of the best pass protecting tackles in the draft in Charles Cross, who's going to be their day 1 left tackle, and Abraham Lucas is going to be their day 1 probably starting right tackle.
Yeah, he will.
They know that they suck, and they know, hey, we're going to be really bad, so let's help the quarterback we're going to draft next year by drafting 2 pass protecting tackles, because this is a team that wants to be run heavy next year. You can just tell because they drafted Kenneth Walker, which might be the worst pick of the whole draft. I don't know why they did that. But they want to be a run-heavy team, and they drafted 2 pass-protecting tackles with, Charles Cross is an okay run defender, but he's not great. And then Abraham Lucas is a bad run defender, blocker. But they know they're going to be bad, and they're helping out the future, so it does make the rebuild look a lot better. But as of next year, they'll be lucky if they hit 4 wins. I think they'll be lucky because this team is going to be horrible because they're going to try to be a run-heavy team with tackles that aren't good run blockers. And if they want to pass the ball, he'll have protection, but Drew Lock is awful and Geno Smith isn't better. So, this team isn't going to be very good, but whenever they get Bryce Young or C.J. Stroud, they're going to be really good.
I heard Geno's winning that quarterback battle right now. According to some reports, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah. Yikes! I was a Drew Lock guy too, which makes it even worse. But real quick, however, I just will say this: like Seattle, I'm sorry, like there's so many Seattle fans crying because we're gonna be so bad. And it's like you're gonna be bad for 1 year, and then you're gonna go get a quarterback, and you'll have great protection. You have DK Metcalf, who they're probably gonna re-sign, and then you'll have Tyler Lockett. Like, stop crying. You'll be fine.
It'll be all right. Dude, this is the best draft Pete Carroll's had in years. This is awesome. I had A's for every pick, except for one, which we'll talk in a second. Even Derek Young from Lenoir Rhine, Tal Duggar school, by the way. And I looked him up, did some research, and kind of liked that pick at the end of the 7th. They went and they got value positions everywhere on the roster: 2 receivers, 2 corners, 2 tackles, 2 edge players. The only issue, and the only reason I have a B+ on this draft, is they made the worst pick in the draft. Kenneth Walker the 3rd,
and John Mechie has an argument.
No, John Mechie was going to be a day 2 pick. And I know Kenneth Walker is too, but I just look. They took that pick and they lit it on fire. They lit it on fire. It doesn't matter. It affects their roster none. Absolutely none. And I know Chris Carson has a back issue. Sure, okay, let's say he's completely gone. He never plays football ever again, right? Rashad Penny was awesome last year. He was great. Great player. They spent a 1st-round pick on Rashad Penny. They never played him, ever. even when they have injuries to Chris Carson all the time, they just bring in a back off the street, and they would rather play that than Rashad Penny. Then the moment they give him a chance before his contract's up, he's amazing. They pay him. They bring him back. RB1, right? He's a starter. And then they go and they bring in another running back. If I'm Rashad Penny, like, I'm requesting a trade. I don't want to be there. Like, this is ridiculous. And then beyond that, like, you know this. Chris Carson was a 7th-round pick. Like, you know, running backs don't need to be taken high. Pete Carroll must value this position as high as the quarterback because he continuously takes running backs really high. But let's say Kenneth Walker's great, right? All right. Kenneth Walker is the best running back in football. Okay, you've gone from Rashad Penny, who might be a top 10 running back in football, to Kenneth Walker, who we're hoping is better, and you used a extremely valuable pick for that. Just stupid. It doesn't impact your football team at all. Like, zero. Literal zero.
What I love about all of this is, like, Pete Carroll, who is a very much established run guy. This was like the most backwards draft for him because you took, like Donnie mentioned, Charles Cross and Abraham Lucas. Both of them excellent pass protectors, which I love both picks. Cross, I think, is better run blocker than people give him credit for, but Abraham Lucas is not a very good run blocker at all.
No, not at all.
So then what I would love for them, because they already have DK Metcalf, who says, hey, I'm staying in Seattle despite all the trade rumors. You have Tyler Lockett, too. What I would have loved is at 41 overall, take Malik Willis and go, hey, we're throwing the ball now, you know? And then it's like, wait, so you're taking 2 pass protecting tackles, and then you're taking a running back at 41, and you're not taking a quarterback at all. That makes no sense to me. So this draft, I hate bashing on it too much because I gave it an A-. I look back and I loved it even more. But if you took Malik Willis, like, this could be an A+ draft for me and be up there with the Chiefs and Ravens and other teams like that. But this was just like a head scratcher because you're like Nick, you mentioned that you paid Rashad Penny. You still have Chris Carson. I know injuries are there. Kenneth Walker III is an awesome player, and I think 41 is fine-ish pick for him. Or very good argument to be RB1 in this draft, but it's like you don't need that.
Your roster's bad.
Yeah, and you just like,
and you only play one running back. That's the other thing. The position doesn't matter, and you have one on the field at a given time.
Yeah, and you have 3 of them now. That legit, like, 3 running backs, and you took Malik Willis, man. You have a read option like that. I would love, and then you could commit to being a more pass-heavy team, which they should have done for the longest time. Let Russ cook has been the saying in Seattle for the last 10 years now, and they've never really done that. They've always over-committed to the run, except for on the one play on the goal line in the Super Bowl. But now it's like, why are you not taking Malik Willis? Like, why are you Matt Corral? They're supposed to love Matt Corral. I would have been fine with that pick too. The fact they didn't take a quarterback. They're committed to the tank, obviously, which, again, in 1 year's time when they get Bryce Young or CJ Stroud, we'll look back and be like, they didn't get Malik Willis, but whatever. They got Bryce or CJ Stroud. But as of right now, like, you can't – I hate when people are like, oh, we'll just get Bryce Young next year. You do not know if you're going to get the first overall pick next year. That is not a 1 in 32 chance, but it is up there. And you can't take that risk. You got to just take what you have now. You can, cut bait with Malik Willis later. I really hated not taking a quarterback. But otherwise, I mean, they got value everywhere. Charles Cross, Abraham Lucas is an awesome pick. Boye Mafe, awesome pick. Kobe Bryant, was fine pick. Tariq Woolen, I like that pick. Tariq Smith, good pick. Bo Melton, good pick. Derek Young, Nick watched him. I didn't watch him, but if you say it's a good pick, I believe you. Like, this is a really good draft. The only thing that keeps me from giving it an A+ and brings it down to an A- for me is they didn't take Malik Willis or any quarterback or Sam Howell or Matt Corral at all. They took another running back, especially when you take 2 pass protecting tackles. You still have 2 stud receivers. You needed a quarterback. You didn't do it. And Pete Carroll is the oldest coach in the league. I don't think he's committed to a rebuild. I don't know. This was a head scratcher. That 41st overall pick was a head scratcher. All right, that's what we got. Final video of the 2022 NFL draft. I think we're going to go down to like probably 1 video a week from now on, and we're going to start talking about 2023 and some other stuff too. So we're very appreciative of you guys. This wraps up all of our 2022 NFL draft.
Ask me in literally like a couple weeks, where did Zion McCollum go to school? And I'm going to be honest, I won't tell you.
Yeah,
I have no idea. I'm not gonna remember any of this. So
we're purging our brains of all 2022 stuff after this. We have 2023 takes already though, so we're gonna hopefully come out with some like 2023 content very soon. We appreciate all of you guys for watching for over a year now, all of our 2022 NFL draft stuff. So for Nick Merriam and Donny Clemons, I'm Max Chadwick. Have a great night.